Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Happy Friday. Hope you're enjoying the show. We can see pretty significant correction today. Get a little 2.5% dump in just a matter of 15-20 minutes when there was some fundamental news here regarding Bybit being now solvent, previously hacked. Again, just interesting stuff nonetheless, right? So little things can factor in, but the key takeaway here that we want to recognize from a technical standpoint and also the backend data is that the liquidation level at 99,000 has been swept. We got some late shorts at 99,700. Those are high leverage shorts and just kind of standard stuff here. We can also recognize too, if we kind of zoom in, there are some order blocks here that were filled, pretty big, pretty massive order blocks, and the price action ripping down. So again, a lot of little things that are kind of factoring in here, but the key takeaway is today's Friday. We've seen a profitable last 24 to 48 hours, and I do think there's a distinct probability we're going to go down this weekend just based on that natural occurrence. Let me explain here too, because I actually took some time here before I pulled up the charts for you to give you some perspective on corrections that we've seen on the weekends, right? So this is just, we've had, what, 6 weekends so far this year, and if we take a look, we can see last weekend resulted in a basically 2.75% correction from Bitcoin. All coins really suffered. We saw even more suffrage here, of course, 11% correction from Bitcoin from, again, Friday to Sunday. Okay. Same thing occurred here as well, 7.5% for Bitcoin when we had some chop basically throughout the week. Same thing here as well. Friday closed at 106,000. Sometime on Sunday, we went back down to 99,000. So again, if you look at everything here, just kind of adding them all up, every single weekend has been red this year, right? So again, it doesn't necessarily mean we're just going to dump, but it does imply that us having a profitable last, 48 hours with a 6.5-7% correction to the upside from as low as 93,300. There's a distinct chance we're going to see that corrective behavior occur this weekend. So I'm just going to give you some friendly advice here, generally speaking, or it's usually best interest to avoid trading weekends for starters. Like for example, my trading bots, I'm turning those back off on the weekends. We did that before, getting back on the swing of those things here. And again, the whole reason for that is just because weekends get really weird. Lately, we've seen generally low volume, and low volume breeds these pretty significant corrections. And again, majority of these significant corrections come after we see these false breakouts, right? A lot of times we see these happen. So I just kind of want to throw that out there, kind of preface that, let you know that's where we're at. Anyways, friendly advice, of course. Hopefully you can find benefit there. Now, again, at this point, if we take a look at 100,000, significant resistance range, obviously there's more upwards of 106 to 108. The macro still looks favorable to the upside. There's no doubt about it. Again, outside of manipulation, we are seeing some good confirming factors from Bitcoin. So I need you to recognize that Bitcoin is not bearish. It's not looking bearish much at all. What's looking bearish is the manipulation and the history that we're seeing in patterns so far this year, ever since some fundamental catalysts starting to play into the equation, right? A new presidential election or president-elect, and then of course Bitcoin ETF from last year. Ever since then, we've seen some pretty gnarly price action. But the thing that's pretty consistent to me is just we have a profitable week. There's going to be profits being taken over the weekends. It's very standard. Okay, so just be mindful of that. While this week hasn't been phenomenal, we've been mostly range bound. We did have a low price point of 93,300 2-3 days ago. Now we're almost at 100,000. What do you think is going to happen? You really think we're going to break 100,000 on a weekend? It doesn't make a ton of sense, okay? Just throwing it out there. All right, having said that, we can see Bitcoin Delta is high, right? Rough about 10 billion right now. Anytime we get in the 10 to $15 billion range, it's very, very common for the price action to start reversing itself because we have an overextension of liquidation. Too many people are taking longs right now. What do you think is going to happen? Well, they're probably going to get hammered. Keep in mind here, this local area of interest, basically open interest, does reinforce some support at 98,000. We can see that currently happening right now with the price trying to pull back and holding that level. So 98,000, as it was previously resistance, could be the new support. So we got to recognize that as well. I don't want to impart you with this bearish mindset or mentality, because we're really not. What I am bearish on is just the standard psychology of market makers and how they've been securing profits in the relative recent past. It's been pretty aggressive, and it's in my opinion, out of control, but there's not much you can really do about it. So from a technical standpoint, though, let's talk about this, because this is where things get really interesting. we can see that we're over the 20-day SMA. We're testing and tentatively rejecting out at that 50-day SMA here. And as per usual, folks, SMAs are not resistance or support levels. They're just kind of ranges to let us know that we've been holding in this area for a while. You look at this here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 or 9 times, depending on how many times you count it out. The 50-day SMA has kind of proven that 99,000 is that resistance range, okay? So that is effectively a situation where we got to understand that until we close above that, we don't really have, it wouldn't be advantageous to try to take a long into it, right? Basically, there's a lot of confluence here at 99,000. Same thing with 99.5 or 99.7 more specifically, not just a local fib level, because again, as we know, fib levels are beneficial. They're not, the end all. When we have multiple attempts, and trust me on this, I've been tracking Bitcoin for a very long time in this local range. 99,700 has been a very, very common denominator, or it's a local top or bottom depending on what side you're on. So 99.7, easy number to remember. 100,000 is that natural, that tried and true resistance for us. It was a support for a long time. Now it's a resistance. At this point, we got to presume it will until it isn't. All that being said, we take a look here. We can see RSI is now over 50 on the RSI. Officially, we closed above that level yesterday, which is positive. Same thing with stochastic swinging up. We're over our moving average there. MACD is converging. There's literally everything here on the daily time frame, minus being above the 50-day SMA. It's letting us know that further upside makes sense. Okay, so again, this is not a bearish situation by any stretch. We're over 50 on the RSI, we're over 20 on the SMA, and we're still under the 200-day SMA, which is hanging out there at 100,000. So again, confluence at 100,000, yes, that's absolutely the case. So easy way to understand it is until we get over 100,000, it's still a little too early, in my opinion, to be like blindly bullish. Again, you shouldn't be bullish in the first place based on just how nonsensical the market has been lately. But the truth is, from a technical standpoint, things are looking pretty solid here, and further continuation of the upside makes sense. It does. So again, I'm totally not a bear. I'm not attached myself to any mindset there. I'm just sick and tired of getting faked out every time we have confirmation. You take a long and the price just hits the old reset button. That's very frustrating, right? And I'm kind of getting tired of that. That's why we're sticking within the range, right? We longed that $95,000 support, and we're basically in a short position at 98.5, almost exactly where the price action is at right now. Okay. And again, that might seem like a bad idea, and I totally get it because we're shorting into the face of a lot of good continuation patterns. But again, history repeats itself. We're going to see a red weekend here. And I think that could factor in. So again, that's where we're at. Just to kind of give you some perspective on where my mind's at here. I'm bullish from a technical standpoint. Everything looks pretty solid here overall. Majority of signs here, even on the hourly, are confirming that further upside makes sense. Okay. So if you're going to consider a long, maybe a long up to this local liquidation level at 99.7, right? It's a pretty big number there at 99.7. So that could get hit here soon. If that is the case, I'd recommend not taking a long position outside of 100,000 because it just seems less likely that that's going to be broken initially. If and when we close above the $100,000 mark, and it's just say Monday or Tuesday next week, I'm going to be feeling more confident in taking some longs. Am I okay with missing opportunities between now and then? Absolutely. That's not a problem to me because a lot of these opportunities are pretty much garbage. So again, try to convince yourself not to take a trade and you're going to be a lot more successful. I don't really see any benefit of taking a long into the weekend. I've been bit a few times with that. And if you're a part of my community, you'll know too. Unfortunately, I had to close out a couple of longs last weekend because of the same thing, false positives, right? So anyways, that's what we got there. I hope that this makes sense and I described it correctly. Sorry, it's not exactly what you're looking for perhaps, or maybe it is, I don't know. But I'll post a playout chart on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. Looks a little something like this if you're not familiar. Check it out. I got a lot of good stuff coming through here. Appreciate the wonderful feedback too from my community as well. Thank you so much.